What I do want to focus on is what it's like when you have infinity at your fingertips, when there is virtually an unlimited canvas of possibilities in front of you. Now, initially, when people start out lucid dreaming, and I did this back when I was a child, you live out all sorts of different fantasies. Now, even that can get a bit weird. Let's say you're a teenager and there's someone you find attractive, and then you have lucid dreams where you're having a relationship with them, and then you wake up to this world and you're not, and you have to process that, and you have to work out who you are and what you want, and all of that malarkey. So even wish fulfillment can be quite undermining in your way of interfacing with the real world, whatever that is. So even lucid dreaming from a basic wish fulfillment perspective is something that can pull the rug from beneath your feet. But infinity is pretty big, and there's lots of possibilities out there. So we've spoken about talking to deceased people, but what about going back in time, fiddling with a few possibilities, and then moving forward in time and seeing how your life would have been if you'd gone down an entirely different path? I've had lucid dreams where I've met myself in all different kinds of incarnations. I've been married with kids and very happy in that situation, married with kids and very unhappy in that situation. I've been a traveler, a CEO, all sorts of strange things. I've visited the many, many different versions of me, and there are many more I've yet to explore. And this is just focusing around ego and self, because that is still a very limited part of this universe of the possibilities. Once you've been doing this for a long time, you start to want to expand beyond just your life. In my videos, I often speak about the nature of self, and this is one of the reasons for that, because when you start to tinker with the nature of your past and see the many possibilities of what you could have been, then you start to realize that self is pretty much an illusion. It is the end of an equation of the mathematics of your life. And you could have been many, many other things. So personality becomes malleable. But all of this is still bathing in ego. It is very, very self-obsessed, because there is more to the universe than you. And after a while, as a lucid dreamer, you start to think, well, that's all very interesting, and etc. But what is the universe itself? And what is self? Is self just an expression of the universe? And then you start to move far beyond just exploring the possibilities in your own life. This is why I find the wish fulfillment aspect of lucid dreaming so very beginner, so very basic, so very short-sighted, because you're basically just indulging in your primate urges and obsessing with the nature of your own life. What is a wish fulfillment? What is wish fulfillment? It is simply diving into who you are, this particular version of you, and then doing the thing that this particular version of you really wants to do. But you're much more than that, and the universe is much more than that. So once you get past navel-gazing and ego-bathing, you might start to look beyond this planet, beyond your life, out into the cosmos, inwards into alternate dimensions, even those where you never existed, or where the human race never became the dominant species. There are so many different aspects of infinity that you can explore. One of my favorite, that I still do very regularly to this day, is to go to entirely unlikely, impossible backwaters of the universe. Places where beings of light exist, or advanced AI has infiltrated the entire universe and is processing the very question of the nature of reality itself. Lucid dreaming, when you do this regularly, when you start to grab the reins of what is possible, when you're surfing the waves of infinity, you don't know which shores you will crash upon. But as you do, your experience of this universe becomes much wider, much more alive, more varied. And then when you return to this reality, your base reality, upon waking, then it starts to feel more comfortable, a lot more reassuring, because you've been out in the wild west of the cosmos. There's a tendency of beginner lucid dreamers to be very, very self-focused. They kind of consider the world of lucid dreaming to be a space in which you are a god and you can do anything. But even that is a layer of the onion of reality that you need to break through. This is why I talk about humility so much, because Oftentimes, as you get further and deeper down the rabbit hole of lucid dreaming, out into the outskirts of the cosmos and reality, then you start to realize how insignificant your sense of self is, and how malleable that is. You start to see the interconnectedness, the reflection of self in every other sentient being. And then you start to realize that you yourself are an expression of an infinite and chaotic universe, and you could be anything at all. And you might think, well, doesn't that make you incredibly spiritual? Because suddenly you're faced with the overwhelming question of what all this is. But there's a catch to that as well, because once you have infinity at your fingertips, you can explore the philosophies and the spirituality of this one planet in this gigantic universe, and then you can, if you wish, travel back in time and meet Buddha, or meet one of the many different multiverse versions of Buddha and see what he was like. And in my experience of that, in some he was an enlightened being, in some he was a charlatan, and then that starts to make you question the nature of truth itself. What can we truly know is real? What is the essence of truth, and who is asking that question? And there's really no way to escape any of these riddles, because if you go with the incredibly philosophical side of things, then you end up down one rabbit hole. But if you come back to the simple answer that this is your amazing brain creating amazing hallucinations, then what does that tell you about you? How amazing are you to be able to create an infinite number of possible universes and to experience so many different things? If there's one thing lucid dreaming will definitely do if you follow this thread to its logical conclusion, is that you will end up surrounded by questions and very, very few answers. And you will realize that each question and every new answer is itself a new question. This is you embracing the insane nature of infinity. And honestly, I don't think there's anything more humbling than that, because being a lucid dreamer, having followed this particular thread in my life and having explored the fractal bizarreness of all this, one thing you can't help but admit is that nobody knows what's going on, and it makes you get a little bit funny when people come out with these incredibly confident answers to the understanding of the nature of the universe. Even the great spiritual teachers, you want to say to them, you're an ape on a rock in space too. Can you not see that even the vast expanse of space is just a tiny grain of sand in all that is possible? Humility is the cornerstone of lucid dreaming. It's what makes you lucid, because first you have to admit what you don't know and be open to realizing that you're dreaming. But humility is also the final expression of lucid dreaming, because the further you go, the more you explore, the more you realize how insignificant you are, how little you know. And you might ask, is all this a little bit scary? Well, frankly, yes. But no more scary than you existing right now in this universe is. Only as a lucid dreamer, or at least lucid dreaming as I teach it, what you're actually doing is accepting it, admitting it, realizing that's what this is. Even if you kept your head in the sand your entire life, you don't get to escape the incredible, infinite, fractal mystery of existence. But as a lucid dreamer, following it as I teach it, what you're really doing is saying, oh, okay, I'm just going to have to accept that, and I'm going to look into it. Don't expect final answers. I mean, it's arrogant to think that that's even possible as an ape on a rock in space, but do expect some of the most mind-boggling experiences beyond your imagination. I have been to the heart of stars in different dimensions. I have spoken with creatures of infinite intelligence and felt like an amoeba floating around them. There is no end to the possibilities of infinity. You can flip through dimensions like Rick and Morty if you want to and never find a satisfying answer. So I suppose there's one thing that really does have to be addressed. If you're interested in lucid dreaming as a form of escapism, if you find this world too much to bear and you want to escape into another, good luck with that, because you're not escaping anything. You will be forever in the fractal mystery of existence. And even if you're there trying to get your wishes granted, there's going to come a point where you start to think, why do I have these wishes? Who is having these wishes? And how is it possible that they can be granted in this strange seeming alternate dimension? And those are threads that don't lead to escapism, they lead to facing the cosmos face on. And as an example of just how weird all of this really is, I've seen this video before I even made it. As I've been relatively unwell and sleeping a lot for the past week, I visited an alternate version of me. I asked them what video they'd just made, and they made this one, or at least one that was very similar to this. That's how bonkers this can get. I suppose if there's one thing I've learned in all of my travels in lucid dreaming is that there is a currency in the multiverse. And that currency is honesty and decency. It doesn't matter where I've been, in which of the many dimensions of lucid dreaming, those things always give you something positive back. So that's probably quite an important lesson, really, isn't it? For me, lucid dreaming has been a lifelong journey, but what I think it really is, what it boils down to, is innate human curiosity. If you're the kind of person that when you're sitting and thinking, you wonder, what is all of this? And you're willing to ask difficult questions and not just accept simplistic answers, then exploring lucid dreaming becomes inevitable because it's such a valuable tool to do that. And I'm aware that many of the things I've said in this video, which don't even scratch the surface of my adventures, many of those things sound completely bonkers. But hold on a second. Look around you. Don't take this moment for granted. What are you? What is this? How bonkers is this reality already? Lucid dreaming just reflects that. It just shines a light on the insanity but beauty of existence.